2023 wasn't a good year for the Carolina Panthers, but I'm trying to make 2024 a better one for myself. Get started on your resolutions with Factor so you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including keto options, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Skip that overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious than takeout. Get chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your door, and they're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you. Head to factormeals.com/C350 and use the promo code C350 to get 50% off. That's code C350 at factormeals.com/C350 to get 50% off.
Hey, I'm Kat, mom of 3 and founder of Ritual, the company setting a new standard in the supplement industry. When I was pregnant with my first daughter, I remember staring at my prenatal vitamins and thinking, what's in this stuff? All I found were vitamins high in heavy metals, synthetic colorants, and lacking in the very essential nutrients we need. I believe women deserve to know what they are putting in their bodies and why. So at 4 months pregnant, I quit my job to reinvent the prenatal vitamin. We scoured the world for the best quality ingredients, backed by clinical studies and third-party tested for heavy metals and microbes. And this year, we were awarded the Purity Award from the Clean Label Project, the supplement safety certification that tests for 200 harmful chemicals and toxins. With Ritual, you'll know where your ingredients come from and why we use them. Join our family of skeptics with 40% off your first month when you visit ritual.com/podcast.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
What's the deal, Panther fans? Guess what? It's not Tuesday. It's Wednesday. Wednesday, folks, and we're here as Panther fans on the intranets, trying to get a feel for this team and the changes. And we're going to say, keep
pounding.
Wow. It's the C3 Panthers podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com. And tonight is our Wednesday night show. What we're trying to do throughout this season is track down a beat writer for both teams going forward. Tonight we've got Schuyler Callihan, beat writer for the Sports Illustrated Panthers and also a West Virginia Mountaineer himself. You can find him at Callihan_. And at 9 o'clock, we've got Allen Ulrich, Under the Dome podcast, to bring us more perspective about the Saints that we will be playing this Sunday. So, hey, guys, we're hanging out here tonight. It's the C3 Panthers podcast. Tonight is the Saints at Panthers preview. And I'm hanging out with my co-host, Cody Lashney. Welcome back. Man, we just were hanging out. Actually, we may have hung out into the wee hours of the morning. We may have even seen each other this morning at 12:01.
We might have, man. Hey, this C3 Panther fandom, it don't stop, man. It knows no rest, especially when we have the New Orleans Saints rolling into the bank and we have something to prove. I'm pumped. We have some good interviews on tap for tonight. And, yeah, I believe one of our guests is even joining us now.
We heard from Matt Rule today. We heard from Taylor Moton today. Those are the two I saw. Oh, and Sam Darnold. I saw trotted out today to do the press conferences. So we have some things to talk about from that perspective, as well as this continued narrative of the missing keep pounding mantra at Bank of America Stadium, where there has been a fan upheaval a straight fan upheaval at this point. Now they are jousting with the Panthers organization about how to handle the fan experience. So we've got a lot strangely to talk about since we've been hanging out together last night. Go ahead and smash the thumbs up button, subscribe to the C3 Panthers podcast, as well as this Friday free for all.
Oh yeah, Friday free for all at 7 p.m. You can all come in and join and talk to me and whoever else is on the show about the Carolina Panthers. Your opportunity to give us your takes and opinions on the team you love.
YouTube simulation dropping on Saturday. And we've got a bunch of interviews. Yeah, we've got a bunch of interviews coming up next week. Let's go ahead and jump into tonight's show. Schuyler Callihan, beat writer for the Carolina Panthers for Sports Illustrated, also West Virginia Mountaineer, writer for mountainmaven.com. Welcome, Schuyler, to the C3 Panthers podcast. By the way, we're the longest running Panthers podcast, and we can't wait for you to be a part of it.
Hey, guys, I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be on, and, yeah, just hit me up anytime.
So
I think you muted yourself, Tony. You muted yourself.
Don't hit the space bar accidentally. The Carolina Panthers are coming off a win against the New York Jets and facing their first divisional opponents who are also coming off a really decisive and many argue impressive win over the Green Bay Packers. Carolina Panthers in year 2 of Matt Rule. Schuyler, what's on your mind when it comes to the Carolina Panthers at this point in the season?
Yeah, I think it's kind of what we expected. It wasn't going to be a perfect performance in week 1 by any means. And, we just kind of expected them to get through that first week with a win. You knew there was going to be some good, some bad. Defense was flying around like we all thought they would. And I think, early indications are that they're going to be a team that could potentially, or a unit that could potentially be a top 10 defense in the league. I still firmly believe that. It may have been the New York Jets, but they're gonna cause havoc on a lot of teams, and I think this will be a good barometer for them to step up and show what they can do against the Saints offensively. Darnold wasn't perfect, but I think he was good enough, and I think you're going to start to see them kind of expand the playbook a little bit more this week against New Orleans. Thought they were kind of a little bit vanilla in that first week against the Jets, so we'll see what they do here in week 2. But I'm excited about Sam Darnold. I think he's got a bright future, and I know people aren't, necessarily high on him, but I think it's kind of a wait and see for them. And like I said, for the longest time, for Darnold, this was a great opportunity to go to an organization that fully believes in you, trusts in you, has the weapons around you to allow you to be successful. For the Carolina Panthers, it's kind of a TBD. We don't know if he's going to be the answer for the future, but through one game, I thought he did what he was supposed to do.
Schuyler, are we going to be depending on this defense to come away with the W for us? I mean, I think, you share the same sentiments that all of us Panther fans do, and that this defense is nasty. They're fast. They fly around. You said yourself they have the potential to be a top 10 defense, but the problem lies on the other side of the football with the Panthers' offensive line and whether or not that O-line will be able to stand up against that Saints 4-man rush. Do you think this is a good matchup for the Panthers offense with the Saints defense rolling into town? And how much do the absences of Marshawn Lattimore and Marcus Davenport play into that matchup?
Yeah, I think anytime you have those two guys out, it's definitely going to show up on the field. But when you have the depth that the Saints have at seemingly every position, sometimes they hide it better than others. I mean, the Saints really didn't have everybody last week against Green Bay, and they went out there and did their thing 38-3. So I think this week for Carolina, obviously they're going to have a huge challenge up front with that offensive line or that defensive line. And I really don't think they're going to fare too well, if I'm being honest. I mean, Cameron Irving and Pat Elflein on the left side just has not been consistent enough, and I don't know that they're going to be able to hold up for an entire 4 quarters against that front. But I think this is a good, like I said, a good measuring stick, not only for, Sam Darnold or this defense, but for that offensive line. Where are some of these guys at? I was never a huge fan of Cameron Irving in terms of him being a potential, cemented guy at that left tackle spot. But again, you don't know until you play the games. Maybe he finds some success here, and maybe it works out. But I think this is a very tough matchup for Carolina. I know they're getting him early in the season, and I know that the instant reaction was, oh, they just killed Green Bay. Here comes the Saints rolling in, clicking on all cylinders. But this is going to be a tight ball game. I think Carolina has a chance to win, but it's going to start in the trenches. If they can give Darnold enough time to throw, I think he's going to have a decent day. But they have to be able to protect for him. And it can't just be the Christian McCaffrey show. He's got to be able to get the ball to Robbie Anderson, to DJ Moore, Terrace Marshall, Dan Arnold. But to be able to do that, they have to be able to protect. And I think that's what a big problem was last week. Everyone just says, Darnold just checked down a lot. But he had to. That was his only option sometimes. So, Robbie Anderson had one catch, but it's not that they didn't, design it that way. They had, 3 or 4 other looks for him, but they just wasn't there.
What are the top storylines for this team right now out of week 1? Is that we've had the Sam Darnold storyline, the trade, we've had the shroud of Cam Newton. We've had, there's been numerous speculation or much speculation throughout the preseason. But after week 1, what are the top storylines for the Carolina Panthers?
I think outside of the big ones,
we got to say kicker. Good God, isn't that ridiculous?
The kicking position is probably where I was going to go. I mean, you're on your third kicker, Joey Sly, then Ryan Quintoso,
exactly.
Zane Gonzalez. At least the good thing for Gonzalez is since the Panthers signed him off of Detroit's practice squad, he has to remain with the team for at least a minimum of 3 weeks, which I don't think a lot of people knew that. So even if he struggles and maybe Dominic Eberle overtakes him, he still has to remain with the team in some fashion for that amount of time. So he's got a little bit of protection. He's got a little security. I don't know if he's going to be the guy, but that's got to be a position they've got to get nailed down. You don't want to have a rotating door at kicker. I know it sounds, like one of the least important positions on the field when you fill out your roster, but it can definitely win and lose you games.
I saw a tweet, and I think it was from Unnecessary Bluntness, Cody, that said the Panthers are streaming kickers like my fantasy team.
Yeah,
is that not that's ridiculous. I thought this is the best tweet I've seen in a minute. How, Schuyler, can we be so uncertain at a position that so many teams are certain at? I feel like we have, and a friend of mine sent me a message, Bill. He sent me a message and he said, I feel like we're becoming the Bucks. When it comes to the kicker, you remember they drafted kickers to try to fix
didn't Zane
this.
Gonzalez play for the Bucks at one point in time? If I'm not, maybe I'm thinking of someone.
I know he played for the Cardinals. I know he played for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think he or maybe that was Aguayo, Roberto Aguayo.
Yeah, that Roberto Aguayo was one, but they had even messes before that. That guy had the yips. I don't know if Zane – I saw Zane missing kicks for Arizona is the Pat Coltrane video I saw to like a clown story. Why is it this bad this quickly?
It's kind of – it's hard to really describe because, I mean, it sounds so cliche. It sounds so easy to do, but it's kind of a mind game. And I really felt like Joey Sly wasn't terrible last year. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, he had, I think, 3 kicks or maybe more that were, 55, maybe 60 yards or more. I mean, some of those were just never going to happen. You just threw him out there to hopefully make the kick. I know one was against the Saints, and maybe the Chiefs was another one.
He had 2 60-plussers.
Yeah, 2 60-plus yard kicks. I mean, that's something not even most kickers do in 5 years. So, I don't know. I think he kind of felt the pressure in the offseason. He was dealing with some of that mental he was trying to get a little bit tougher mentally, trying to overcome that adversity, overcome that pressure. I just don't think he ever did. I think he felt that pressure from the organization by bringing in kicker after kicker, whether it was this guy or that guy. It always seemed like last year they were always trying to provide him with competition. And when they brought in Zane Gonzalez earlier this year, I mean, Gonzalez was almost dang near perfect when he was here. And it kind of made it, Joey Sly kind of kick it up in another gear.
Oh, Eberle. You mean Eberle or whatever his name was?
Well, they brought in Gonzalez during mini camp.
Really?
Yeah.
Zane
Yeah.
Guns. Oh, I did not.
So
even
we have
know
some
that.
prior experience
Oh
with them.
God.
Yes. Yeah, he kicked the ball.
What a
Yeah.
disaster. This makes it even more of a disaster.
Yeah,
We
it
need
really does.
Jake Verity. We need Jake Verity, former ECU Pirate, who's been killing it with the Ravens. Anyway, sorry. I
Yeah.
missed
Schuyler,
that guy on training camp.
Schuyler, why do you think they've kicked this can down the road so much? I mean, at one point in time, they were all in on Joey Sly, and he was the guy until he starts, being very inconsistent in preseason and in training camp. And then I don't know what your personal opinion on this is, but I felt like Santoso didn't really even get a real opportunity to actually compete to be the starting kicker for the Panthers. He missed one extra point, and then there was a bunch of other times when the Panthers didn't even trust him, even when the ball was on the Jets' 33-yard line. So, what's behind this trepidation from the kicker position? And do they just not have a trustworthy guy, so they're just willing to kind of reshuffle the deck as needed?
They're streaming.
What's going on with this hesitancy around the kicker position?
Yeah, so I mean, with Sly, I think the writing was kind of on the wall. Everyone knew that was just a matter of when for Joey Sly to move on. I mean, he just needed a fresh set, of scenery or whatever the case may be to get him back on right. And he did well in the first week with the Texans, but with Santoso, I think it was more of a throughout the week thing because he wasn't being consistent enough throughout the week during practice to where they had that confidence when they get into a game. You get to the 33-yard line that you felt comfortable with him to trot him out there and kick the field goal. So, I think part of that also had to do with, the defense, how good the defense was playing at that point. You have a kicker that doesn't have a ton of experience in the NFL, don't really know what he's going to be able to do, and you're playing field position at that point. So the defense playing so well, I think he made the right decision on that, even though it was a head scratcher. But, Santoso has a big leg. I just think, when you look at the preseason, I mean, his very first field goal, it had us all laughing.
I know. It bounced off.
Yeah.
You can see the nervousness on his face kind of wash away for a second. And then Joey Sly's over there sweating bullets on the other side. All right, I do have to change this conversation from kickers. Good Lord. Isn't it maddening when that's what we're talking about? Why don't we talk about something even more maddening? The Carolina Panthers offensive line.
It's bad.
Something that we have not been able to fix for a long while. And Cam Irving, to be honest, I thought played okay in his debut. I know that people are down on him, but the problem with this offensive line is that it got bullied. They didn't miss their blocks. They just got pushed backwards all the time. So as we go forward against the Saints with a effective pass rush, right? What do you expect as the Carolina Panthers are going to get, I guess, John Miller back, right? I believe this week. Dennis Daly feels more comfortable on the left side. How do you expect this Panthers offensive line to improve? Do you expect them to improve? I hope that week one is them trying to find a way to gel.
Yeah, I mean, usually the most improvement you see is from week 1 to week 2, right? So hopefully that's something that happens this week. But the offensive line's really beaten up right now. Pat Elflein's dealing with an injury. John Miller's coming back off COVID. You don't know how that effect's going to be. It's kind of going to just play itself out throughout the week. I wouldn't be shocked if we get to Sunday and Dennis Daly starting at left guard in place of Elflein and Miller's in at right guard, or maybe Brady Christensen kicks into right guard. They've had that as a possibility as well. So it's hard to tell. As far as Cameron Irving goes, I thought he did okay too. There was, I think, at least two plays I know of, maybe 3 where he got put on skates pretty badly.
Right.
Who that was, I think maybe Franklin Myers. But his biggest thing is he's just got to stay disciplined. He can't get over aggressive in his protections and stuff. And I think that'll all kind of come with more comfort in the offense and knowing, what those guys next to him or to the right of him are going to do. So we'll see if they improve. It's going to be a big task, obviously, to do that against this front, but we'll see.
Schuyler, I've been I'm saying for a long time now that I think Deontay Brown and Brady Christensen need to be a part of the starting offensive line. I think that Ron Rivera showed a propensity when he was our head coach to not play the younger players in favor of the older veterans. And I kind of feel like Matt Rule and Fitterer and the brass are kind of doing a similar thing right now. I mean, we've now heard it from you about how bad Pat Elflein has been. Many people in the media and fans alike have not expressed a lot of confidence in Cam Irving and Pat Elflein. Even Matt Paradis is kind of included into this conversation as well. Why is this so obvious for Panther fans, and yet our coaches have this real strong belief in the guys that they brought in? Is it just an ego thing, and these are the guys that they brought in to play a meaningful role on the offensive line this year, so therefore that's who they're going with? Or are these rookie guys like Deontay Brown and Brady Christensen maybe just not up to speed in the playbook yet? What's going on here with their choices and who they start on the offensive line?
Yeah, so with Deontay Brown, they're trying to get him to where he's physically ready to take on a full game's worth of snaps. Right now, he's probably about halfway there, maybe a little bit over halfway, which is why he was inactive last week, and they elevated Sam Tecklenburg up as the backup center, mainly to have another center available. But Deontay Brown, he came in when they drafted him. I think he was like 365 pounds. He's dropped down into the 330s. So he's well on his way, but he's still got to – now he's going to learn how to play with that weight and how to maneuver it and stuff like that. It seems very easy, but when you lose all that weight, it changes your speed. It changes your sense of direction. It changes everything. So he's just got to get brought up to speed physically. I think he's getting closer and closer. Probably another couple of weeks we'll see him rotated in onto the field, and maybe even this week, depending on the health status of Elflein and Miller and everybody else. But and then as far as Brady Christensen, they really seem stuck on him being at right tackle. I don't think they have any interest at all moving him over to left side. I don't know why that is. He does have experience at left tackle. I get that he doesn't have the longest arms in the world. He's probably not the most athletic left tackle in the world if they were to put him there. But, I mean, at some point, I think you have to give it a shot, because I think they don't want to move Taylor Moton either. I think they are stuck with him staying at right tackle. And if you're going to keep Taylor Moton at right tackle, you might as well move Brady Christensen to the left side, because if not, he's just going to sit there. So they've got to find a home for Brady.
Yeah, I want to double down just on that last thing that he mentioned, is the left tackle, right tackle position. And, if they view Brady Christensen as a long-term right tackle, which is where Taylor plays, does that mean that in the long term, there's potential that Taylor Moton could be our future left tackle? Because in my mind, that's been an inevitability for a long time now, especially considering Taylor Moton is listed as the backup left tackle as it is right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could be. I mean, they've obviously worked him there during mini camp at OTAs, training camp, all that stuff. So there's a possibility, yeah, for sure. But I think they really like him on the right side, mainly because they know how good he can be on the right side. And to flip all of that, you're going to have to change. Basically, when you go from the right side to the left side, you're flipping the entire, your entire movement, what your assignment is because of the play. You're going in a different direction. Honestly, it seems a little bit easier for guys to go from guard to tackle or tackle to guard on one side than to flip from the right side to the left side or vice versa. So if he's their best option in the future, if they can't get anybody in free agency or they don't nail anybody in the draft, I would see them probably moving Taylor over at left tackle if that becomes evident, if that's their best option.
Cool. Tony, go ahead.
The Panthers offense stalled in the second half, right? We come a slow start for the offense in the first quarter. The defense was stunning. generating pressure at every moment, it felt like. And then all of a sudden, Sam Darnold and Robbie Anderson connected, DJ Moore making these flying, wonderful catches, putting up somewhat of 200 yards passing in the second quarter alone. We come out of the half 16-0 and punt the ball every time. Some miscommunications, but Panther fans have interpreted that third quarter performance or lack thereof. People have been going back to last year where problems in the red zone, problems in the 2-minute, problems with an explosive offense. And we saw Sam Darnold be pretty good, I thought. But Panther fans have circled back to Joe Brady here. They want to know what is going on when it comes to, we were told that Joe Brady is going to be the next best thing since sliced bread since he came out of that LSU offense. Ed Ogeron is over there crying all day long, begging for Brady to come back. What is going, when will the Panthers find the red zone?
They'll find the red zone more often. They'll be more efficient in there when they get a good offensive line, I think. I mean, that's just the end of really.
That's the worst. That's the answer we don't want to hear because that means never. We're never going to find the end zone then.
Exactly. So, I mean, to be honest with you, you know, the fumble, I mean, that's not a Joe Brady thing. That's just, you know, Sam Darnold coming out too wide on the handoff, Richie sticking his elbow out. There was another instance, I think, where Darnold had Ian Thomas in the middle of the end zone. It was a drop ball. So, and Rule talked about this today too. He felt like it was more a lack of execution than anything because the plays were there. They just didn't execute. So we'll see. Yeah, they had troubles last year, but that was a whole different group, personnel group. They didn't have Christian McCaffrey, but all 3 games. And when you have that taken out of your game plan, it changes everything you do. And, you know, we'll see what happens. But I think they're going to be fine. I think Joe Brady is going to be a good offensive coordinator. He's going to be a head coach someday. I don't know if it's going to be anytime soon, but they're going to have to fix this stuff up if they want to make a push for the playoffs. Because if they don't fix those things up, such as the red zone or the 2-minute end of half, it's going to be hard for them to win ball games. But at least the one good thing is they didn't look good in the second half, but they did complete that 2-minute drive at the end of the first half, which was nice to see.
Are the Panthers equipped on defense to really stop this Saints running game? Because I think, you know, if we were to verbalize our fear, is that Panther fans right now think we have an incredible defense only to go up against the Saints and find out that it's not as good as we thought it did, right? Now, we're riding high right now, but to me, the strength of the New Orleans Saints is they can run the football at will. They have Alvin Kamara. They have a veteran offensive line. And that allows them to be able to not have to put the ball in Jameis's hands so much. Are the Panthers equipped to shut down the Saints offensive line and specifically that rushing attack with Alvin Kamara?
I don't know if they're going to necessarily shut him down or maybe slow him down, but I think the biggest thing for the Panthers is don't let anybody else have big days too, because if Kamara's going to get his touches, he's going to get his yards, whether it be the rushing game or the passing game. But if you have these other guys, a receiver, tight end, just carving you up left and right, that's when you're going to have a big problem. But as far as do they have the pieces, I think they do. I mean, this is a completely different looking defense than what we saw last year. There's better push up front from the defensive line. You're getting more pressure from the linebackers with Hassan Reddick now. And also Brian Burns is kind of a hybrid. And then I think Shaq Thompson is just playing much better. I mean, he looked better in preseason and training camp, and you saw that in game 1, probably his best game he's ever played. And if he can,
it is. I would not wear this dude's jersey. Look, I bought this jersey before he played a single snap, and I've been waiting for. I got to the point just last year. I said, I can't do it anymore. And he came out and had that game, bro. And everybody in the chat said, you got to wear the jersey now. Now I've worn it 2 nights in a row. Shaq had finally 5 years later, $100 bazillion later, he has met expectations for 1 game.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really got to deal with the supporting cast too. I mean, I think
right. We saw this with Luke Kuechly. right? Is that in those the back 2 years of his career where you were wondering, is he slowing down? Is his head? You're wondering these things. But part of it we kept coming back to was the defensive tackles weren't getting it done. And it made their job just so ridiculously tough. And I think it was either Matt Rule. I think Matt Rule said this today, is that we've got the talent to let him play a little bit more freely.
Yeah. I mean, especially when you have, Daquan Jones in there, who's got a ton of NFL experience. I mean, last year they were rotating in Bravion Roy, a rookie. They had, I can't even remember. There was a couple of guys that they elevated from the practice squad at times to go in there. So when you have guys that have good gap discipline, that really helps out the linebackers. And then when it's kind of a trickle effect, the defensive line helps the linebackers help the corners helps the safety. So I think it's all just kind of starting to mesh together. And now that you have Hassan Reddick on that defense too, there's a lot.
It's amazing.
There's a lot to account for.
Cody, I'm gonna get my last question in, then we're gonna we've got Allen Ulrich coming in just a minute or two to help us preview the Saints. We're here with Schuyler Callihan from SI Panthers beat writer. Sports Illustrated is also a Mountaineer fan and Mountaineer writer. When it comes to the Carolina Panthers defense, we saw an injury come with Miles Hartsfield is on my mind, right? Is that now we brought Corn on the squad, as I saw Jim Zoki say it. He's on the practice squad, but next week we have to make it through this week. AJ Bouyer's coming to town and finishing out his he's in prison. He's in PED prison at this point, but he's finishing his last game. Will he make a difference for this exciting defense, or is Corn Elder going to be the difference maker?
I think definitely Boyer. I think this is really kind of like the first time since that Pro Bowl year that he had, or All Pro year, whatever it was, when he was with Jacksonville, that I think he's really been set up for success, because you look at the defenses he's been on since. I mean, they're kind of suspect in terms of the secondary help that he had. So when you got guys like Dante Jackson, J.C. Horn, and Jeremy Chin, I mean, that's a pretty good complementary group. So I think you're going to see A.J. Boyer make his way into the starting lineup. And I know it kind of, freaks people out and say, oh, well, Dante or JC's not going to start. They're going to start three corners, I think. They're going to have three guys on the field. And they did that a lot during minicamp and OTAs. So I think they feel comfortable. I think that's how they feel they're going to get the best 11 on the field, is have those three on the field. But as far as Corn Elder, it's kind of a guessing game, really. I think he's kind of been brought in right now to kind of gap that 1 week in between now and when he returns.
Schuyler, do you have a prediction for how you think this game is going to go? I don't know if you're allowed to give your official predictions or not, but do you have a feel for how you think this game is going to go?
Yeah, I'll release my score prediction on our site, which may change from this moment, but as of right now, I'm going to say Saints 27, Carolina 23. I think it's just not quite there yet for Carolina, but I think that it's going to be a really good game, and I think you're going to see a lot of positives come out of this one, even though it'll end up being a loss.
Fantastic work, Schuyler. Tell them how they can find you. Obviously, they can find you at Sports Illustrated, beat writer for the Carolina Panthers for Sports Illustrated. But how can they find you on social media, as well as if they're interested in West Virginia football? Go ECU Pirates.
We're
terrible.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Callihan_, and then you can follow the Panthers site at SI_Panthers. And if there is West Virginia fans out there listening, you can follow us at SI_WVU.
Thank you so much for your time tonight, man. I hope we can have you back on the C3 Panthers podcast.
Absolutely, guys. Appreciate it, fellas. Just let me know.
Thank you, man.
You're listening to the C3 Panthers podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every week we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. We do it on Tuesday nights on the longest running Panthers podcast, 9 p.m., but we got all this content coming to you post game show where it is lit as a mofo. I'm telling you, the post game show is where it's at. We got the Friday free for all on Friday. We've got YouTube simulations, and tonight we're going to be jumping into this Saints. We got a Saints insider here. My boy, my pal, Allen Ulrich. Come on and bring him in, Cody. Allen, welcome to the C3 Panthers podcast.
Glad to be here. I enjoy y'all's podcast. It's very entertaining.
Are you first of all it was Ida, right? Was it Ida?
It was Ida.
Are you okay?
Is
your house destroyed?
I had 2 trees on it. Yeah. 2 50-foot water oaks. Yeah. So I had to gut my garage and my front room. But I mean,
are you living with your in-laws right now?
No, I'm actually living in an Airbnb in beautiful Cecilia, Louisiana, about 2 hours away from New Orleans. So yeah. Last Saturday we went and gutted the garage and front room, but we were planning on doing renovations to our house anyway, just not this extensive.
Right. Wow, man.
Yeah.
How bad did it affect the city?
The city itself, not that badly. I live in the suburbs, so I'm west of the city, and as you start moving west and you go what they call down the bayou, Cocodrie, Fouchon, Chac Bay, Pointe-aux-Chenes, all those areas that are fishing towns and things like that, cut off where Bobby Hebert is from, they really got nailed. That's where the storm came up. And it never lost its strength because it went through what we call brown water or brackish water. So that's what made it even worse. For New Orleans, a doomsday scenario is it takes a Betsy path, which is going up the mouth of the river. So it's the eye of the storm is constantly over the water, not losing any strength. For down the bayou, coming up through those bayous like that, that's what's deadly for them. And you're talking about 150 mile an hour winds around. Yeah,
it was like a high wind. It was like Cat 4 or something, right?
Yeah, it was a Cat 4. And it wasn't much of a rain maker. It was a wind maker.
Right, yeah.
And that's what really, I mean, my wife teaches high school in Destrehan in St. Charles Parish, and it tore the roof off her building and took out one wall. So, I mean, they don't know when they're going to have school again. So
we're not immune from hurricanes ourselves here in eastern North Carolina, and for us for me the high wind ones it's like more immediate destruction, and if you're kind of in the worst of it, it does a lot. The water ones though, here, we have, and you guys are lower than us, and water's even worse for you guys. So and I'm not trying to diminish the wind one, but good God, I mean, is that it just I don't know. You know what? Natural disasters are disasters.
Yes.
And they affect people's lives terribly, and it's tough. So we're thinking about you guys down there. My wife has 2 cousins that live in New Orleans themselves, and thankfully they're okay. One of them parked his car on the 4th deck of a parking garage. I don't know how he did that. I don't know where he found a parking garage, but good God. So look, they had to move the game.
Yeah.
To what was it in Jacksonville, Florida?
It was in Jacksonville. Yeah. And it wasn't, the dome was untouched. They did for Katrina. They used the dome as a shelter of last resort.
Right.
And so the inside got trashed as bad as the outside, because then the roof leaked and it just got to be a nightmare. But the dome was untouched. So the dome could host the game, but the infrastructure couldn't hold it. People didn't have power.
Sure.
Police are, stretched out. You got utility people all over the place. So they are supposed to be back for the Giants game, which is in 2 weeks, I believe. I think it's the end of September, first week of October. So it's not like the Katrina year. They will be back in the dome.
The Saints opened up the season with, what was it, a 33-3 win? What was it?
38-3.
38-3, because they didn't get to make the 28-3 joke
No,
on the
no.
Falcons. But I heard one Saints fan describe this 38-3 win over the Green Bay Packers as the greatest opener in Saints history.
You'd be
Is
hard
that
pressed.
I felt ridiculous when he said
Yeah.
that. I was like, I mean, really? The greatest opener. But that's what he said. The greatest first game in the history of the Saints happened this week.
You'd be hard pressed to find a season opener that could top that one. I mean, they beat the Dallas Cowboys, Jimmy Johnson's first game, 28-0, and that was back in 1989, and that was a great season opener. In 2009, the Super Bowl year, they beat the Lions, breezed through 6 touchdown passes. But I think as far as just total domination of a league MVP and a team that was in the NFC Championship, just 9 months ago. I think from that standpoint, yeah, it was probably one of the greatest openers in franchise history. They haven't won very many of them. The Saints haven't gone 2-0 since 2013. We even these past 4 seasons, we've either gone 0-2 or 1-1, and not looked very good in those first couple of games. So I can see that the hyperbole has some justice in this.
Allen, so Tony mentioned he has some cousins in New Orleans. I actually have most of my family is from Louisiana. I have aunts that live in Plocherville. I have one who lives in St. Francisville. So we definitely have been monitoring all of these hurricanes very closely. But it also brings me to this: whenever the Panthers play the Saints, man, these family blood football rivalries, man, they go deep. Me and my brother have already been talking so much about this football game, and we're so excited for it. And, kind of piggybacking off of what you said, the Saints normally don't go 2-0 very often.
No.
And I'm sure it would be a big feather in their cap to do it on the road against the division rival Carolina Panthers. I want to ask what matchups you are specifically interested in coming into this matchup against the Carolina Panthers. Have you had a chance to look at our defense or our offense, and are there any areas where you think your team might potentially be vulnerable in some areas against the Panthers?
Yeah, I watched, unfortunately I only watched the NFL Red Zone highlights of y'all's game. But I did, if I were to say the advantage the Saints have, they have an advantage over you guys on the lines, offensive and defensive lines. What you saw last week with Aaron Rodgers, we saw a lot of that in preseason, completely eliminating the run and then getting after the passer. The difference you guys have compared to other teams is, of course, Christian McCaffrey. You might be able to take Christian McCaffrey away in the running game, but if he gets out in space, even as good as our linebackers are, and I'm talking about Demario Davis and Quan Alexander, it's hard. McCaffrey's a matchup nightmare. He's like Alvin Kamara for you guys. It's a matchup nightmare. So I think that's where you guys could really exploit our team. And I think, as good as our secondary played last week, Marshawn Lattimore had a thumb injury. He is supposed to have surgery this week, so he'll probably not be in the game. So you're going to have Paulson Adebo, who's a 3rd-round draft pick on one side, and probably newly acquired Bradley Roby from the Texans starting in Lattimore's spot, with the old Falcons defensive back, Desmond Trufant, kind of in reserve. So, those guys matched up against DJ Moore and Anderson. There's a possibility that if your quarterback has the time, that he can exploit some mismatches out there, because McCaffrey's going to draw so much attention.
Speaking of Christian McCaffrey, one of the discussions that Panther fans have a lot is the value of a running back, and how much we paid him. Both Kamara and McCaffrey signed mega deals in the same year. right around the same time. Both are these sort of multiple both multiple players that are dynamic. And my argument is that they're more than just a running back. They're sort of this kind of transcendent position.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of Panther fans that are concerned about the amount of carries, touches, and plays that the Carolina Panthers give to Christian McCaffrey. There's this stat from 2019 where he played like 99 points, like he took like one play off in the entire season. My interest is this. Is there any discussion among Saints fans who have a similar investment in Alvin Kamara? Have you heard any talk about we're concerned about the workload we give Alvin Kamara? Because I feel like Panther fans are too much on this workload joint, but it's a big deal among our fans protecting Christian McCaffrey, who has had one injury, basically 1 year with injury. So is Alvin Kamara. 1 year struggle with this. Is there a discussion among Saints fans about protecting Alvin Kamara?
You know, it's funny because it's a division.
I don't think it exists. I have a crazy theory. Well, not a crazy theory. I don't think it exists like it exists among us.
There are some people who think Alvin Kamara doesn't get the ball enough. You know, I mean, but I think they have him on their fantasy team too. I mean, when he scored,
he won my championship last year in a keeper league, bro. In that last game where he scored the 5 or 6
touchdowns on Christmas Day, and people were pissed off.
I retired his cleats last year, bro.
But they were angry that Peyton gave Taysom Hill one of the touchdowns because they scored 7 on the ground. They're like, Kamara should have got it. He could have broke Gale Sayers' record. And I'm going, dude, you know what? Outside of fantasy football, I look at it from the real football standpoint. There is a concern for me that he gets too many touches, but the man has this incredible workout, this balancing stuff he does. It's amazing.
Wasn't he the guy that he was dragging these weights down the street? This was like 5 years. He was a rookie and he had the sled and he was pulling them down the road or something stupid.
He pulled a Jeep with a weight bar on it. He gets on this medicine ball looking thing. They got a platform. He stands on it. And they're tossing him balls while he's standing on it too. So I mean, it's these bizarre workout videos that show up on Twitter. And he does an incredible job staying flexible. And you saw that this past weekend when Winston threw that bad pass to him on 3rd and short.
Oh, where he did that turnaround catch.
Yeah,
he did that. It was insane, bro.
Yeah, I mean,
he's amazing. But I think Christian McCaffrey is easily at his level. And arguably, when you look at, I think Christian McCaffrey's explosiveness and speed, and I know that people are saying that against McCaffrey. I think he might have a hair on him right now. But I know I'm a fan. I do believe this is that if Christian McCaffrey was black, there would not be the same talk about protecting him.
You know,
it's kind of crazy. And I'm not saying this because it is weird with Carolina Panther fans. They're like, man, I don't hear enough. I want to hear Panther fans saying we got to feed McCaffrey more. That's what I want. I want that talk.
Well, you know, and for Saints fans right now, I don't know. Al Davis must be reincarnated in Saints Twitter because all I'm hearing about is it's not so much feeding Alvin Kamara more. It's the deep ball's back. We're going deep, baby. You know, you just play the NFL films, the Raiders music, and they just want to see bombs away offense. And I'm going, wait a minute. You guys 4 years ago, before Kamara got here, were complaining that the Saints don't run the ball enough, that the defense gets worn out because we score too quickly. And it's
you like that Drew Brees explosive 09 shit.
Yeah,
when we could put anybody from this, like the 55 touchdowns. You love that. Jameis Winston comes in and throws 5 touchdowns in his starting debut. But really, and this is another off-color position at this point, a unpopular one. I do think you guys were very good on defense. I thought that Jameis was efficient as I've ever seen him be. Like, I mean, but at the end of the day, I also thought the Packers were terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere. I don't think it was just Aaron Rodgers and this Jeopardy casualness. I thought their defense stunk. I thought everything about the Packers stunk. So how good are the Saints right now is, I guess, my question. I know that is a positive win. It's one of the best wins. And I don't want to take anything away from it. But how good are they? How good are they?
I completely agree with you, because I think preseason and the first couple games of the season are kind of an illusion. You know, I don't think teams are as good or as bad as they look those first couple of weeks, mainly because you don't have those physical practices. You don't have the two-a-days. Most of your starters hardly play in preseason. I don't think Aaron Rodgers played at all in the preseason. So, you know, all that chemistry that you see when you're playing week from week to week to week is not there yet. So it takes 2 or 3 weeks before you really start getting a feel for how good or how bad a team is. And the Saints going to Jacksonville, it was kind of like a training camp scenario where you can keep all your players in the hotel room. They're not going home to their wives. They're not, you know, getting on social media and all these other things. And you keep them laser focused. This is the opening game. We got to win this game. This is what we're going to do. So from my standpoint, I don't think the Saints are as good as what you saw. I think they are good, but they're not going to sit and blow people out.
How much is COVID and injury going to hurt this team this week? There's a lot. I mean, there's a long list. Let's start. I mean, we can go down injury. Like, even if it was just injury, we could go down this list and it would be significant. But now we have this COVID story with the coaches and this and that. And then we just got to have the devil, Sean Payton, who probably doesn't matter. He probably don't need any of his little minions.
Well, I saw on Twitter right before I got on the show, it was Curtis Johnson, the wide receiver coach. They didn't say the name, they just said the positions. The running backs coach, I think, offensive line coach, I think it might be Zach Streif, but it could be the main offensive line coach. So it's not any of the coordinators, but it's assistant coaches, and they were all vaccinated. That's the funny part. They're all vaccinated.
Isn't that wild? Oh my gosh. Isn't this going to throw a monkey wrench into the NFL narrative?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, we have there was one player, but they said it was Michael Thomas, but Michael Thomas is vaccinated and he wasn't even there. So I don't know how
he's not even he can't he's not going to play for a couple of weeks still.
Yeah, right? not until about mid-season. Yeah, probably late October, early November. So I mean, there's all kinds of stories going on, but I don't know how this is going to affect the team. You're going to see on game day a lot of assistant coaches kind of step up. You know, the quality control guys are going to step up now as being the guys hand singling and things like that into the players. But the coordinators weren't. Peyton obviously wasn't. Peyton had COVID.
We wasn't this the like where he had to sit at home and then he couldn't coach. I feel like it was one of those examples where I feel like they should have let them coach via Zoom.
I think,
and I know that's silly too, but it almost seems strange. It's like we're going to do all the training camp by Zoom. We're going to do all this, but when it comes to somebody actually getting COVID when it matters, you got to go sit there and watch it on TV. And then we got to watch this silly camera of you sitting in your house watching the game or whatever.
Exactly. So, I know the whole COVID thing, the way the league handles it, I got mad because the Saints got fined a draft pick because they were celebrating in the locker room after beating Tampa Bay 38-3, but they didn't have that mask on. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. They just got through 3 hours.
An entire game.
Yeah. Sweat all over you from somebody else. You're breathing in people's faces. It's a contact sport. And you're going to fine them for being in the locker room without
optics.
It's the dumbest thing in the world.
There was and I'm going to turn the mic over to Cody, but I go on the radio, Pirate Radio 1250 every Friday. I've been doing it for 8 or 9 years at this point. but we're a ECU pirate town. Our football's terrible right now. But when ECU basketball was playing, which has also been historically terrible, when the basketball games were playing and they just instituted like, all right, we're going to try to play sports with COVID, the guys would come in, they would be playing on the court, right? So they're on the bench. There's only 11 people, right? It's not like a 80-person roster, right? I mean, it's like 11 people. They would make it all the 5 guys or 4 guys on the bench, 5, 6 guys on the bench sit 6 feet apart. But then these guys were all playing in the game, and then they would huddle up in timeouts. So they would all pull their chairs into a circle where they were 2 feet apart from each other. And then after the huddle, they would break back to the 6 feet. You're like, the 6 feet don't matter when you're beating every 2 seconds.
Exactly.
Side by side. Anyway, Cody, the mic is yours, my man.
Well, no, actually, I wanted to turn the attention back to Jameis Winston. So, as before mentioned, my brother is a diehard Saints fan, and one of the things he said to me is that, Cody, I think we're better off without Drew Brees, and that's something I never thought I would have heard him say. And you might disagree with that notion, but it's a common. And I think one of the reasons why so many people are on this kick about Jameis, reinventing that Saints offense, is not just because of the arm talent, but your offensive line gives you the ability to do so. Returning so many starters on that offensive line, all of them are Pro Bowl caliber offensive linemen. You guys invest premium high draft picks on the offensive line. That is certainly something I wish the Panthers would take from our division rival Saints. Is we've been begging for some first round tackles to be taken forever, and we're still not doing it, and still passing on Rashawn Slater. So it's a whole thing.
They trade away all their picks anyway.
My whole thing is this: with that offensive line and Kamara, doesn't that set up a situation where, Jameis doesn't have to be he doesn't have to throw the ball 50 plus times a game. I mean, he can take those selective deep shots that Sean Payton wants to call, and then they can just go back into rhythm. How much different truly is this offense under Jameis Winston rather than Drew Brees?
Well, I'm going to say this. First off, the people who say that this offense is better without Drew Brees, that drives me crazy, because you're just, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback, even with a weaker arm because of age and injury, is still a Hall of Fame quarterback. This was not the case of a guy struggling to complete passes. He was completing 70% of his passes. Yeah, it wasn't the big vertical game, but he was still completing 70% of his passes. We were still scoring a lot of points. We went 12-4. I mean, it's ridiculous. But I understand it's the new toy. It's sexy. People like it. The vertical game is back. And as far as the offensive line, what you were talking about, I had said this, and I'd heard it from somewhere before. Everyone wants an offensive line that's built on high draft picks. Just nobody wants to make those draft picks to do it, because
that is the God-forsaken truth.
Yeah, because
that is the truth.
When you're looking at that draft board, and you're watching ESPN or NFL Network, and that music comes on, and you're looking at all the skill position players, the receivers, the tight ends, the quarterbacks, you see all pass rushers, you see all those toys up there that it'd be so awesome, we could get this guy on our team, and and then you see an offensive lineman go, you're like, oh God.
They're like, and they were like, if it's not the only one we know, the one or two, it's like, who's this guy? Now we got to go try to scramble and learn about him. We haven't heard about his name. Oh,
Twitter instantly explodes. What are they doing? They're wasting draft picks. Look who they left on the board. All those things. And you've got 1, 2, 3. You've got three first round picks on that offensive line now. A second round pick in McCoy, who won't play, because he has a calf injury, and he's at a Pro Bowl level, and then a 3rd-round pick in Teron Armstead. So they're all high draft picks on that line.
Yeah.
On a defensive line, you're losing one 1st-round draft pick, which is Marcus Davenport. He injured his pec muscle, but he's going to be replaced by this year's 1st-round draft pick, Peyton Turner. So
how do you guys have so many 1st-round draft picks when you always trade them away? I don't understand this. How do you have 7 1st-round draft picks on your team, and every year you guys are trading up?
I haven't hit them all yet. Well, we had 2 in 2015, and that's Andres Pete is still there, the guard. We had 2 in
that's awesome, by the way. You got a player that's still there 6 years later.
Yeah.
Do we got one of those on our team, Cody? I don't think we do.
Well, can't.
I mean, I don't know, man.
I don't think we have somebody from 2015 on this team.
And we just lost
from Shaq Thompson.
Oh, Shaq Thompson. Shaq Thompson was our number 1 draft pick, and he had his first good game 6 years later.
It changed his number to number 7, and that seemed to be
great game came 6 years later.
That seemed to be everything that he needed. Another question I don't hear asked too much from Saints or two Saints people is about your receiver position. And Michael Thomas not being there. And I know you guys expect him to be back later in the season. But, who are the guys that are really going to step up in this matchup? Because I am here to tell you, this is a much improved, at least we feel like, with what we've seen so far, that this is a much improved defensive backfield for the Carolina Panthers. We added J.C. Horn in the 1st round. That was my number 1 rated corner out of South Carolina. We've also heard a bunch of rumors that the New Orleans Saints were very interested in J.C. Horn during that draft process. And they were even looking potentially to even trade up to get him. I don't know if that was rumors or not.
Was their guy.
Yeah,
but they were interested in J.C. Horn because he's Joe Horn's son. And Joe Horn was a great player for us. So there was a lot of truth. Now, you're wondering how we have all these 1st-rounders on the offensive and defensive line.
I know. I can't wait to hear it.
Look at the receiving core.
Voodoo.
That's all. Those are all undrafted free agents.
You have nobody.
Yeah, Marquez Callaway, number 1. He's the receiver number 1, undrafted free agent last year. Deontay Harris, undrafted free agent, the kick returner being converted to a receiver. We got Chris Hogan, who was an ex-Patriot, got him off the lacrosse team.
Ex-Panther, too. Played for the Panthers for like 4 minutes.
Yeah, and, they got him out there. Ty Montgomery, the ex-Packer.
What about Kenny Stills coming back too?
They brought Kenny. Yeah, they brought Kenny Stills back. I mean, that's they've trying to resurrect the career of Kevin White. He's on our practice squad too. So I mean, that's the payoff. If you're going to draft a lot of 1st-round, spend a lot of 1st-round.
You got Michael Thomas. You got Michael Thomas. You guys got more players that are 1st-rounders too.
Well,
Michael Thomas was a 2nd-rounder.
He was a 2nd-rounder.
Lattimore was a 1. So they're just on injury. So it's not like you only are rolling with undrafted. I believe it's voodoo, bro. You guys did this because of New Orleans voodoo, just like you do that stupid ass salary cap. How do y'all do it? Voodoo. There's no way. The salary cap does not exist. Math.
No, it does not.
It's the best thing.
I
like that guy's math. I hate it from an opponent's perspective, but good God, if I could do that math, I'd be rich.
I'd love to get Loomis to do my taxes because the government would end up paying me.
The government would just fund our podcast for the rest of our. All of a sudden, this podcast brought to you by PBS.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to go back to the receiving core. Who's number 11?
That's Deontay Harris.
Harris. Okay, so
did he get 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, based on what I've seen,
he got 1. He got the deep pass to 1. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I also remember seeing him in the preseason the first time that Jameis got the start over Taysom Hill. He had 2 really nice touchdowns to Deontay Harris later in the game. Do you think that that's a key matchup for the Panthers, especially if they're going to be selective in taking those deep shots? Is that the game plan, just to kind of do your best to run the ball with Alvin Kamara and then try and catch Deontay Harris downfield? And if so, how do you think that plan is going to work out, considering we have J.C. Horn, now Dante Jackson, Jeremy Chin, who looked great last year?
Yeah.
What do you expect this Saints passing attack to look like against the Carolina Panthers?
He is going to try and lull those guys to sleep and he's going to set them up for later shots. I would expect a lot of short underneath, high percentage passing, get the safeties to start to cheat up, and then take the shot, and Peyton is incredible in his designs with clear out routes and things like that. And everybody can run all, the X, Y, and Z positions. They can run all of them. That's the thing about the Saints receivers. They're not locked into one spot. You'll see Deontay Harris lined up outside the numbers. Next thing you know, you'll see him inside in the slot position and a tight end's lined up outside the numbers. It's all about matchups. And yeah, you guys have a great secondary. Jameis Winston didn't break the century mark for yardage passing until he threw that pass to Deontay Harris late in the fourth quarter. It was a lot of high percentage short passes. So I think that's going to be the key. You'll see a lot of Kamara, another undrafted free agent, Tony Jones from Notre Dame. You're going to see a lot of him. They're just going to try and run the ball on you guys, almost like a Vince Lombardi kind of playbook. And then throw a pass to the tight end, another undrafted free agent, Juwan Jamison. But you just really get that defense, lull that defense to sleep, and then take the deep shot once he's got those guys set up.
Would you rather hang out with Jameis Winston or Drew Brees? Cody, check the private chat. We got one hangout time. We're going to go and hang out one time. Who you want to hang out with, Drew Brees or Jameis Winston?
Jameis will probably be more fun, but because I'm a football nerd, I would probably enjoy hanging out with Drew Brees because I could sit there and talk football with him, and that would be a lot of fun. I'm a huge Drew Brees fan. I've been a Saints fan for
right. He's great for the city, all this, but I got to ask you this: as you say that, what's going on with his hair?
Oh God!
Tell me this. Tell me. I mean, did you see it?
Yes.
It is. I don't even know what to say. I understand. If you're super rich and you're gonna be on TV and all this, I get it. But at the same time, we all saw what you were like when you didn't have it.
Well,
it's a lot. It's different. It's dark. It's thick. I heard one Saints fan say it looked like ant.
He has more hair now than he did when he was younger, when he first came into the league. So yeah, and it's dark and it looks terrible. I think it looks horrible. But he did it.
Well, if you hung out with him, what would you say?
It'd be like,
would you ask him? You know what I would ask him is, did NBC make you do that?
Probably. Or, what the hell were you thinking? Why did you go William Shatner on us? That's a rug. It just looks, it's plugs. It's clearly plugs, but I mean,
does it influence your decision on who to hang out with?
No.
All right.
No. I enjoy it too much.
Can you cue it up for me?
Yeah, okay, right here.
We're going to ask this question. I asked you about the hair. I'll be remiss if I did not ask you. This is now we're going to revisit this question of who you want to hang out with more, Jameis Winston or Drew Brees, one time after I like Jameis more now. Every day I grow to love this guy more and more. Let's hear this clip of him after
in the running game. Give overall shape to the way this played out, Jameis.
Well, I just think we were prepared. One thing my trainer, he told me, he said, what did he say? He just told us to be prepared.
What did he say? He looked up. He said, you know what my mama told me? What did my mama tell me? I won't ever listen to her. No way. Anyway, anyhow, he didn't even try, dude. He glanced up at the sky and said, nope, I ain't going to remember what my trainer said. Just be prepared. I want to hang out with Jameis Winston.
Well, he had another verbal slip up when he was talking. He was trying to say combo and tandem and he got the two
Oh, and he
words
said
combined.
condom,
He
right?
said
Condom, yeah.
condom.
He said condom, and it was great because everybody's like, "Wait, what?" So yeah, I had to post a picture from the Naked Gun where Frank Drebin and Priscilla Presley are both dressed in full body condoms and falling in bed together. Just there's your condom tandem.
I love
So-
it, man, because I misspeak all the time. So it's not
Oh, I
even
do
a
too.
judgment thing.
yeah,
Like, I
no.
like this. It endears me to him. That moment endeared me to him, and I hate you guys. Cody, final questions for Allen before we get out of here tonight. 'Cause we
Yeah, I
gotta
mean,
still talk about this stupid keep pounding thing too.
yeah, I basically just want to get your opinion on this on a final score. I mean, do you think the Panthers are going to be a stout test for the New Orleans Saints, or are all of these very key players that you guys are missing, like Lattimore, like Eric McCoy, like Davenport, is that going to be the difference maker in this matchup?
It's funny about this series. We always seem to do better in Carolina than we do in the Dome. If you guys beat us, it's in the Dome. So I think they, obviously I'm going to say they're going to win this week. But as far as the injuries and stuff, you're just going to see more guys popping up. You're like, who the hell is that? Where did he come from? And I think that's going to be the difference in this game. I don't think Winston will throw 5 touchdown passes. I think you guys will give us a big challenge because Christian McCaffrey is a huge challenge. And they'll be so concerned with McCaffrey that I think Moore and Anderson are going to get free on some plays. So, I'm going to say a 27-24 kind of game because that's just a feeling I have.
What did Schuyler Callihan say? Our Panther insider beat writer for SI came in here and said 27-23 Saints.
Yeah.
So look, you guys are all on the same thing. We're gonna beat their ass, Cody.
I hope so, man. I want this to be tough. I feel like the past few years, this Saints Panthers game has been very one-sided. I went there with my brother in week 17 when New Orleans came to town. I believe it was the end of that 2019 season. And the weather was just terrible that day, man. That was a slog. I'm hoping that this can be more competitive. We're definitely more believing in this defensive line than we ever have been before. I'm very interested to see what happens in that offensive interior against our defensive interior. We've been very impressed with Daquan Jones, someone who we brought in from the Titans as a free agent. Davion Nixon was a 5th-round draft pick out of Iowa, who's been highly impressive. And then our first-round pick last year, Derek Brown. That's our zero tech, one tech technique in the middle of the defensive line, who's frankly just come on incredibly
He's
strong.
a monster, bro. He was a monster last year and just a rookie. Now he's gonna show y'all.
I'm definitely interested to see how Derek Brown matches up against who is going to be playing center instead of
it'll probably be Cesar Ruiz, who was a center at Michigan. And when they drafted him in the first round a couple of years ago, he'll be back in as a center. And then you'll have probably Calvin Throckmorton, undrafted free agent at left guard. But the thing you got to be careful of. The thing you got to be careful about, though, don't leave any running lanes open because, as you saw, almost said Bridgewater.
Winston,
yeah. Winston has no problem.
He looks thinner to me. He looks slimmer than he did in Tampa.
Yeah, he has changed. He went to Drew Brees' trainer. He's adopting Drew Brees' diets.
His attitude? What was his attitude? To be prepared?
Yeah, to be prepared. What his mama said, be prepared. But I mean, he's changed. He's even changed the way he throws the ball. He keeps the ball tucked in a lot more, just to try and eliminate that kind of elongated throw he had in Tampa. So it's going to be a good matchup. It really will be. If y'all can handle the run and y'all shut down the run and put the pressure on Winston, that's the key for y'all to win. because I think Winston having to throw to those kind of receivers against y'all's defensive backs, if you can get the Saints one-dimensional like that, that's how you'll win, because I think that's when Winston will regress to what we saw in Tampa, turning the ball over, making mistakes and things like that. But if he's comfortable back there, he's not getting any pressure, good running game, then he's going to pick you apart.
I'm going to finish this interview with the same question they finish every interview in the professional world. Do you have any questions for us? And I always tell people, and here is for our listeners, if you're going to a job interview, be prepared for that to be the last question.
Yes,
and have a good question. Have a thoughtful question. Don't say, when are you going to have a decision? When am I going to get paid? Just do 2 seconds of research and look at their website and find something or whatever. But do you have any questions for us as Carolina Panthers fans as you guys come to our house and we have an underdog mentality where we think we're going to smoke you, homie?
Well, I know how you guys felt about Bridgewater. What is the vibe about Sam Darnold?
That's awesome. That is awesome.
I already know how you felt about Bridgewater. I know.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about Darnold?
Cody, you go first.
Yeah, I mean, listen, especially if you look at what Sam was able to do in week 1, Sam can make all the throws. Yeah. I mean, he can attack downfield and intermediate. He can go through his progressions. The key to all of this is the offensive line, and specifically the offensive interior. That left guard, center, right guard trio right there in the middle. I mean, they continue to whiff on blocks. There was a big touchdown pass from Sam Darnold to Robbie Anderson, and if it wasn't for Christian McCaffrey staying back in there for pass protection, that would have been a dead play. And there were more opportunities for Sam to be successful, and we think that Sam can be very successful. Yeah. I think even more so than what Ryan Tannehill has done for the Tennessee Titans. It's just we have to pass protect. I mean, we're running the football pretty well, and a lot of that is to do with Christian McCaffrey. But our pass protecting offensive line, ESPN rated us at the bottom of the NFL at like only 20% successful snaps in pass protection. So we have to be so much better at that. But if we can do that, Sam is fine. He has way more arm talent than Bridgewater ever had. He's not afraid to drive the football. You know, and he can play in the rhythm of the offense that Joe Brady has set for him. So if we can get him some better protection, the sky's the limit this year for Sam Darnold.
I'm not even worried about that, man. I'm not even worried about the protection. Tell you this is that they were asked when the COVID stuff was about the vaccine protocols came out, when it came for the NFL and all the team. We didn't know if players were going to get vaccinated or not. Immediately, they asked the superstars of every team, are you going to be vaccinated? So what they came out is that both Sam Darnold and Christian McCaffrey said they didn't know right away. Like, you know what I mean? That was their initial response is we don't know. Like, we barely know what's going on. So a question was asked by, and then both of them got vaccinated. So it's a non-issue anymore. Yeah. But a reporter comes up and asks Matt Rule about Sam Darnold and his vaccination. He also asked Sam Darnold, and they asked him if this would affect him. If you believe to be an effective leader in the locker room, do you think you should be vaccinated and being an advocate? Matt Rule said this is we don't need Sam Darnold being a leader on this team. We just brought him in yesterday, basically. We've got leaders on this team. We need him to worry about playing quarterback. And the reason I bring this story up is because when you play for a New York Jets team and you're number 3 pick or 2, whatever he was, on a terrible team in a media market where they just got Zach Wilson, we played them and their team still sucks.
Well, yeah, Adam Gase.
Right? It's like the pressure. Yeah, I mean, like the pressure is just insane. I feel like this is that as I see Sam Darnold walk around Carolina, as I see him strut out into the podium, as I see him on that football field, I don't know if he's going to be good or great, but I tell you this is the mug is not hating it. The moment, right? The moment is it's easy. Now he just needs to go out there and play. And I tell you this, is he went out there and played more than adequate in game one. It was it felt relaxed. And what I mean by that is that he checked the ball down when he didn't check the ball. He took a couple of shots. Some of them missed, some of them didn't. I just didn't feel that super pressure on him to be the savior of the organization. And I think all of a sudden that means that he might be able to capitalize on some of the potential he has. So I am rose-colored glasses at this moment when it comes to Sam Darnold. I have to be. We have no other choice. Your starting quarterback is if he don't work, then we need to be moving on to next. I mean, we're going to be thinking about next year.
Yeah.
But I really think this changes scenery for him. He's 24 years old.
Yep.
I don't think he's broken. As I hear him in the press conferences and I see him out there. I don't think he is broken mentally like some of these players can be in those early phases in the worst of circumstances.
Well, it's funny. Everything you just said about Sam Darnold is exactly what people are saying about Jameis Winston. Same thing. He doesn't have to be the savior of this team. You've got Kamara. You've got a good defense. You've got a head coach who develops quarterbacks. Joe Brady came from the Sean Payton system. So, I can see that kind of optimism because that's what you want. You get that pressure off you. You're now the franchise. No, you're not the franchise. You just need to run the team.
You just need to be a good player. Now you can go out there and be a good player. All of a sudden become that maybe. We don't need you to be that from moment one.
Well, that's the thing that happens to so many young quarterbacks out there. You look at all these guys that are drafted number 1 overall or in the top 5, top 10. You see it right now with the Bears. So much pressure to go play that rookie that when Andy Dalton comes out there, they're booing him. They want him out. It's when's the rookie going to start? And if he's starting, most of the reason why you're drafting that high is because you're a bad team. So you throw a rookie onto a bad team with poor protection, few weapons to throw to, and he gets the crap beat out of him.
Alex Smith.
Alex.
Well, it happened to Alex Smith. Let's do the first Carr brother, the Houston one, who was very good. And then all of a sudden he had 1 year. Yeah, he got sacked 70 times in a year.
Yeah.
And then he was broken from then on. It was just broken. There's no bringing him back mentally.
No.
From that. Drew Brees may have been on the precipice with that in San Diego with the shoulder injury. He was actually he was successful in San Diego. But it is strange. I hope that he is a reclamation project, and I think his ceiling is higher than that of Tannehill.
Well, when you look at a guy like a Justin Herbert, he has this incredible season with San Diego.
Yeah.
That everyone expects the quarterback to be a Justin Herbert. And, Cody, I know
we liked him. There. He could have been a Panther. He could have been a Panther, bro.
But, I know your school, I'm watching Trevor Lawrence a lot now in Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence has a really good chance to be a good quarterback, but he also has a really good chance of getting broken.
Urban Meyer there and his bipolar ass.
Yeah. Urban Meyer is one of these guys you could just decide one day, you know what? I'm out. This isn't what I want to do. Health concerns, I'm retiring. And, there they go. Now we're starting another rebuilding project. We got to draft players that fit a new coach's style, and that's what happens to a lot of young quarterbacks. So I'm always excited to see when a quarterback who was rated very highly coming out of the draft gets a new opportunity to be a starter. Let's see what he can do. So
fantastic stuff, Allen. We appreciate your time tonight. You can follow Allen on Twitter at 79Saints. Where else can they find your work, Allen?
Well, I'm on Facebook. I'm in all the Saints groups, but if you look up my name on Facebook, after every Saints game, I do my good, bad, and ugly review. Where I break down the key plays of the game and who did the best, who really hurt us, and why Troy Aikman sucks as an announcer.
I know you guys hate him, man. How about this? Is that where was Joe Buck and him in that pass interference 3 years ago?
Oh, and he was carrying on about that. They actually called that game, and like I tell everybody, that was one of those nice sunny days where I had my windows open in my house, nice and cool. Well, people 3 blocks over knew that somebody committed pass interference because that's how loud I was screaming. And it wasn't just pass interference, it was pass effing interference. Yeah. So, exactly. When you tell me I got to get over that game because one call doesn't make a game, and then you go on a tirade about, oh, that was a terrible call. Hey, you got to get over it. One penalty doesn't make a game,
Good God.
Yeah.
We all hate Joe, but he's better at baseball. That's what I always say. He's
Yeah.
great at baseball, terrible at football.
Absolutely. Well,
All right,
thank you guys for inviting me.
Yeah, man, we appreciate your time so much, Alan. We're going to catch up with you. We play twice a year, so I'm sure we're going to be picking your brain later on in the season, man. We thank you for your time, and best of luck to you, not this Sunday, but the following.
There you go. Thank you.
Or never, actually.
Same with you guys. Yeah. Hey, one thing we have in common, we all hate the Falcons, so that's always good.
Amen. Amen. I say it to you. All right, we've had a fun show tonight with Schuyler Callihan helping us break down the Carolina Panthers. We've had Allen Ulrich give us the inside tips on the Seattle, the New Orleans Saints. Next week, how about next week? We're going to be previewing the Panthers with Josh Klein from Riot Report. The following week, I've got interviews lined up for the entire month already. So we got a lot of things to talk about as we come up. We got the post game coming up, and I almost did it again. How did I have a brain for Nick Carboni? 2 weeks from now in the Carolina Panthers preview. So we're going to have beat writers in there asking questions with these coaches like we did with Jonathan Alexander last night. Before we get out of here, Cody, we got to talk about this keep pounding thing real quick.
Yeah. Do you want to go through the timeline of events on this? Because this
you got it ready? Okay.
I'm pretty much.
So the game, we had our first home game this past week, and all of a sudden this story emerged. Right?
Yeah.
And
so
what happened?
Yeah. So during the Panthers game, as you all might know, if you've ever been to a Panthers game, they on the big boards, they do the keep pounding chant, and keep pounding, and they get the whole
it's like a signal
stadium to do it, dude. It's a Panthers staple. It's our motto. It harkens back to the words of Sam Mills. It means a lot to this team. It means a lot to the fans, to the franchise. It means a lot to everybody. And this was noticeably absent from the game against the New York Jets this past Sunday. So this prompted the Roaring Riot on Twitter to put out this tweet. And by the way, shout out to Panthers Twitter, because if it wasn't for Panthers Twitter, I don't even know if this happens, if this is even as big of a story as it is. But the Roaring Riot put out a tweet that says, "Dear David Tepper, admittedly, this franchise doesn't have many traditions, but keep pounding is one, and it's more than words we yell. Don't take that away from us. Retweet this to show the Panthers how much it means to you that you want it back in the stadium on Sunday." Now, this inevitably prompted a response by the Carolina Panthers. Josh Klein saying on Twitter, a team spokesman says, "Keep pounding prompt will return in week 2 when the Panthers play NOLA." Says team was just experimenting with different approaches to engage the home crowd. Still had the keep pounding drummer, and they're not trying to eliminate the keep pounding chants by any means necessary. The Joe Person would later go on to
here it comes. The story
elaborate.
He says thicker right here.
He says Panthers spokesperson says the goal is to have the keep pounding chant evolve to the point where fans don't need any prompting to start it. Team will supply the prompt for the Saints game, but not necessarily every home game thereafter. And this is interesting, man. This has been one of the biggest news stories in Panther football that just happened over the course of a day. And this is something that people were worried about on Twitter. I know you have your own conspiracy theory that we're gonna get.
It's not a conspiracy theory. It's true.
Maybe so. Well, why don't you? Well, how about this? I'll say this. I didn't initially read a whole lot into this. I remember a story that happened a few years, or maybe like a year or so after David Tepper purchased the Panthers, that apparently there was even some inside talks that David Tepper wanted to change the colors for the Carolina Panthers. And I remember hearing that, and I'm like, oh,
no, you
no,
can't do
what
that.
do we have on our hand? But the point that it gets me to is that, you know, David Tepper coming from the Steelers, you know, he's bought this team, you know, he's tried to ingratiate himself to the fan base. But a lot of the traditions and the things that we love about this Carolina Panther football team are still very new to David Tepper. And I think we take for granted that David Tepper knows and understands all of the things that us Carolina Panther fans hold near and dear to our heart. I mean, he might
if
know.
There's one chance, if you've ever been to a game, though, if you've ever been around a Panthers fan, if you ever looked at Twitter, if you ever like this, is everybody says keep pounding.
Everybody.
And the most ridiculous thing is I would see a couple of these. So I was looking at when these stories were broke, and I look at the comments, and the first thing somebody would say is, I'm glad, because there would be some random person who wasn't a Panthers fan, and they'd be like, keep pounding has sexual innuendo to it. And it could be, that's like what kids talk about for date rape or something. I was like,
wait, who said that?
Yeah, I mean, like random people, you go look at the comments and some of these things. And I'm kind of
just a bunch
paraphrasing
of
it, but it's just like this, that's like, it sounds sexual from an organization that's had, you know, I mean, it would just be some
it's
random
sexual if your mind is in the gutter
in.
and you're a perverted idiot anyway.
All right. The other thing is like, I don't like that talk. Like, if Tepper is that tone deaf as a billionaire, then give me that AOC dress. Like, if you can't, I mean, if you can't even like,
would you wear it on
Twitter,
the podcast?
Yeah, if you can't even look at Twitter, like, come on, like that's the one thing you want to change out of all the shit. Thank you for putting the Panther logo. Like, he did things that listened to fans in the beginning. So this would be strange. And what if he did this? Is like he didn't know our traditions, and he was like, you know what? I don't like this keep pounding thing. I want to do purrable towels instead of terrible towels. Purrable. That was awful.
You know, there was something.
Like cats.
No, I know.
What is he going to change this to the Bears?
Hey, Petey Pablo.
Robbie Anderson would be a.
Petey Pablo has that North Carolina. Come on, everybody.
Oh man, we've been saying that.
Yeah, dude. Panthers need to spin a T-shirt around. Like, give everybody a free Panthers complimentary T-shirt that everybody gets to swing around at the stadium. Dude, that would be the shit. I've been wanting to do that for a long time.
Let me tell you what's really happening though with this keep pounding joint, folks. I'm telling you, this is what's really going on. Is David Tepper and the Carolina Panthers are taking hostage our chant of keep pounding. They're taking our phrase. They're taking it hostage like a terrorist. And they're holding this chant hostage until David Tepper gets that tax funding for his stadium. And then as you put this statement up and you're like, well, they might bring it back next week. That is the equivalent of making Sir Purr hold the newspaper up with the date and the time saying proof of life. Proof of life. Right here. That's proof of life for 1 week that the Panthers will exist. David Tepper, gun to Panther Nation's head for his stadium. That's my thing. This is just one. What's next? What's he going to do next? He's going to hold back something else. He wants that stadium, homie. Hold your newspaper up, Charlotte. Sorry. Do you want to keep Sir Purr in terrorist prison? Or do you want to keep pounding chant back forever? You better pony up them tax dollars to get this mug out. That's the ransom.
They're gonna hold Sir Purr hostage on live.
Yes,
TV.
They're doing it right now.
David Tepper his money.
Yes, ransom is the stadium, dude.
And one of the things that I'm realizing is this story is not going anywhere, because now the story has become, can Panther fans on their own prompt the keep pounding chant without needing the board to do so. And I think that maybe
like
now
how
that this
dug
story
in are they now? Like, are they gonna
Yeah.
be like, are you really fan? What if they put up like, are you really fans on the board or something?
But
And
see,
you're
I'm
like,
also torn about
motherfuckers.
this because I also agree in doing things that bolsters the Panther fandom, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like I understand. I don't necessarily agree with the way that David Tepper is going about doing it, but I agree in wanting to have an involved Panther fan base that
This is
has
having
this
it
deeply
involved. This is
right, and
encouraging
that's what I'm saying.
involvement.
I don't agree with
It would
David
be the
Tepper. Like,
worst thing. He just wants to put a McDonald's ad up there, dude.
yeah, I don't agree with taking away the prompt. I also would like Panther fans to do it, just at any random time themselves, which we do. But I just think that David Tepper is going about this the wrong way. I think if you want to build traditions, you have to make some things. You have to make some changes. Panther fans also haven't been happy with the new end zones, having the green end zone with the Carolina written in blue in the middle. Like that's another change that Panther fans haven't necessarily been too keen on. So I'm just, I'm hoping. I got to be honest, man. I don't want to jump the shark on this yet, but David Tepper
He
has
wants his
done a
stadium,
few
bro.
things. David Tepper has done a few things that have really given me some cause for concern. I do think he has not necessarily full Jerry Jones, but he does have that tendency where I think he wants to be involved very heavily with the day-to-day operations of the football team. That's why he cut working with Appaloosa management a year or so back. And he really wants to put his own unique footprint on this team that he just
We've seen it. We've seen it in these quarterback conversations, man. He's come back.
Yeah.
Even in the draft, we three, he said this, we sat down together. What do you call himself? Like the tiebreaker or something like that?
Yeah, something like
that.
Yeah,
no. Is that I am gonna root for the eccentric billionaire at this point because he owns our team. But let's just not. We were just so excited about this guy who would walk around with the fans and do this stuff at some point early on. I don't know. David Tepper didn't get to. He had the Revenge Mansion. You've heard the story about the Revenge Mansion, right?
Yeah, he bulldozed the mansion just to put up his own one or something.
A house
like that.
bigger because a guy like wouldn't give him a job earlier, and then he got like bought that dude's house later. Like, let's not. He didn't get to the top by doing people favors. I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm telling you, Sir Purr. Somebody check on Sir Purr. I think he's a hostage right now with the keep pounding chant. Charlotte, get your tax dollars ready. Get yourself a retractable dome, because he said that domes are a thing of the past. But if you can put a little pinhole in the top, all of a sudden you ain't got to wear a mask. He didn't say that part.
The trend now, Tony, is that, or what it used to be, is that a team would just threaten to move to Los Angeles. Well, now there are two teams in LA, the Chargers and the Rams. And now the story has been that the Buffalo Bills have potentially been interested in potentially moving to Austin, Texas. So listen, Panther fans, as much as I hate to even talk about this, we need to prepare ourselves for the inevitability of this stadium talk that's going to happen down the road. And it's going to involve the city of Charlotte forking out, an untold number of millions of dollars to help finance a brand new stadium for the Carolina Panthers. I'm here to tell you that is inevitable. I hope it stays in Uptown Charlotte. I think the stadium being a part of Uptown provides a breath of life to the city of Charlotte that I don't want to go away. Frankly, there's owners are always going to use moving the team as leverage. And, the city of Charlotte has already bent over backward for David Tepper and bringing an MLS team to Charlotte. They've already done a lot of things for the Panthers and for David Tepper in the time that he's been here. So this is going to be a story to watch as we go forward, Tony Dunn, in these next few weeks and these next few years, honestly. This is something that we're going to continue to touch on.
You're listening to the C3 Panthers podcast. We're here on Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, Friday nights, Saturdays, and Sundays now. Good Lord. We're all in your brain, folks, taking over the YouTube airwaves. Go ahead and smash the thumbs up button, subscribe. We're on YouTube, obviously. Hit the little bell notification. We're on Facebook, Periscope Live when we do these shows. Tuesday night at 9, 4:30, or just in 30 minutes after the game, 15 minutes after the game on game days. We have the Friday free-for-all at 7. We've got a lot of content when it comes to beat reporters and interviews coming up on Wednesday nights going forward. So we're going to keep pushing out this content. But it's also on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, wherever you get your audio podcast. I syndicate them the next day. So we appreciate your support in the chat room. The number is 252-228-5098 if you want to call into the post game or the Tuesday night show. Cody Lashney, how can they find you? And before, I guess, like 5 minutes.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Cody Lack, CODYLAC. I'm always really good about following back and replying to people who respond to me. I also write content, draft content for drafttech.com, where I am the analyst for the Carolina Panthers. I write first and second round comments for the Carolina Panthers and do some in-depth draft detailing on that website. And listen, Tony already alluded to it, but the Friday free-for-all is every Friday at 7 p.m. And look, that's your show. You can come onto the show yourself. I'll put the link to the StreamYard. You can come in, you can talk to me and whoever else is on the show at the time and ask us your questions about the Carolina Panthers. Give us your thought about the Carolina Panthers. All that stuff, man. This turned into a great opportunity for Panther fans to meet up online and talk about the team that we all love. So, yeah, that's how you can find me. Keep pounding.
Thank you for your time, folks. Follow me on Twitter at @cat_chronicles. And guess what is free? Smashing the thumbs up button. Telling a friend about the show. Hit me on Twitter at @cat_chronicles. Say I like the podcast, man. And then I'll retweet it. And it makes everybody's life better. Till
hit
then,
the subscribe. We're on the road
please.
to 4,000 subscribers, man, or 3,000 subscribers. And we got to get to 3 first, but we're on
our way to 30, homie. This year we're taking over.
Right.
Just like that, you know what? We're going to have as many thousands of subscribers as the Panthers put up points this week when we beat that damn New Orleans Saints ass. I think we win this game, Cody. I think we win this game. I think we're surprised here. I think they're sick with COVID. I think they're off their kilter. I think they're riding a little too high. I think Jameis is over there going, I'm prepared. And the Panthers are going to sack that ass.
You're not prepared, Jameis. You're not prepared. You're about to eat this L, not a W. Tony, do you think if we win in a big way that the Panthers are going to get mentioned as potentially one of the better teams in football, even after week 2?
Not yet.
Okay.
I think it's going to take 2 more wins. And I think even if you beat Houston on Thursday, then all of a sudden people are going to start going, man, Panthers are making some noise. But it's going to take something more than that. I don't think the Saints are enough right now because I think the COVID and the injuries will override it.
I mean,
I think that's what they'll say. You know what I'm saying? Is they'll be like, no Lattimore, all of this, Hurricane Ida, and that's fine. Give me that W. I eat it like Jameis does. Cody, let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah, man. Until what are we tonight? We're Wednesday. So until Friday night at 7 p.m. Keep pounding.
Oh, no prompt by the team. We did it on our own.
We didn't need David Tepper to tell us. Peace and love, y'all. Have a good night.